Watching the 4 o'clock news on News Channel 4, the news leader.
Hi everyone, Kevin Ogle with you. Let's get you straight to McAllister involving the execution of Richard Glossip. Let's go to our team down there right now, Allie Meyer and Abby Broyles. We have a news conference happening right now.
And we'll be here to address you all shortly.
I need prompter.
Okay, Alan.
Did not see that coming.
Well, we're waiting on a news conference right now from prison officials. We have been told that they're going to be talking here in just a little bit. What happened earlier was a last-minute plea to spare the life of Richard Glossip. The U.S. Supreme Court denied that stay in a vote of 8-1. Stephen Breyer, the only one that voted to go ahead and stay the execution, but it will go on as scheduled. And now we are getting word that there has been a stay of execution granted by Governor Mary Fallin. That's what's happening right now. You see that information being passed out. So once again, if the information we're getting is spot on here, is that the governor has granted a stay of execution of Richard Glossip. Again, this is a man who's already had his last meals twice, because remember, he was scheduled to be executed a couple of weeks ago, 11th hour stay there. It has happened again, apparently, is what we're hearing. And let's go to our Abby Broyles, who is outside the prison right now.
Kevin, it has been a back and forth all day long. We've first heard this morning that there's going to be a delay. We're waiting to hear what the Supreme Court was going to do, and so the execution was delayed here at the state pen. And then we were just waiting for our own Allie Meyer to get in a van and actually go be a witness to the execution. And then we got word just a few moments ago, right before we went on air, that Governor Mary Fallin has issued a stay to look at the lethal injection protocol. She wants the attorneys to work with DOC and decide whether the cocktail they're going to use is going to work out. If there have been a lot of legal issues regarding the drug cocktail, you remember midazolam was the drug last year that was controversial. And I'm bringing Allie Meyer here because they had prepped her. She was ready to go over to the H unit. That is where they do the executions. And Allie, what do you know?
All right, well, let me just start by reading to you this issue that has just come down to us from Governor Mary Fallin. The headline: Governor Mary Fallin has issued a stay of Richard Glossip's execution to address questions regarding lethal injection protocol.
Down to McAllister, where our Allie Meyer, who was going to witness today's execution of Richard Glossip, was suddenly told they weren't because a stay of execution granted by the governor. Let's go down to Allie for the latest on what the situation there is now at the state pen. Allie.
Kevin, we are expecting to hear from DOC Director Robert Patton. What we see now is the director pulling up to the media headquarters right now. This building that is off to my left is housing all state and national media that have been watching the Glossip execution throughout the day today. What you're seeing over beyond that tree is Director Patton. He has on the black suit, a white shirt, and he is speaking with the public information officer from the Department of Corrections, Terry Watkins, and her colleague Alex just to her left. As you can imagine, we've got a lot of unanswered questions here at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary as the governor's office issued a stay of execution approximately 1 hour after the scheduled execution time for offender Richard Glossip. What we're told about 10 minutes ago is that when the stay of execution came from Governor Fallin's office, Director Patton would be delivering that news to the family of Barry Van Treese. We understand several of the victims' family members had come here to McAllister to witness the execution of their loved one's killer. So the director has delivered that news to the family, and we understand that we will have the opportunity to leave the campus here if that is what they so choose. We do not know if Director Patton was the one to deliver the news to the offender's witnesses, that is Richard Glossip's witnesses. We know there were 6 people here to witness the execution on behalf of Richard Glossip. He had chosen 4 friends, his attorney out of Denver, Kathleen Lord, and also a clergy member, Sister Helen Prejean. She is an anti-death penalty advocate. All 6 of those witnesses were here on campus to witness the execution on behalf of Richard Glossip. And so now you see Director Patton walking toward the media facility. We have an additional camera and crew inside the media headquarters. And so as soon as he walks up to the mic, we'll be taking his statement live so our viewers at home can hear what Director Patton has to say about this latest development in the Richard Glossip execution. So as Director Patton makes his way into the media facility and up to the podium, let's take that camera angle now and hear more from him on this latest development here today from the state penitentiary.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Patton. I'm the director of the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. Through several phone calls and conversations with the Attorney General's office, the Governor's office, and out of due diligence, we have asked for the Governor has granted a stay of execution for Richard Eugene Glossip until next month. This will allow us time to review the current drug protocol and answer any questions we may have about the drug protocol.
We know Richard Glossip got a lengthy stay of execution, a number of months, while the Supreme Court considered the question, is midazolam an appropriate drug to use for lethal injection? Anti-death penalty advocates believe it's cruel and unusual punishment. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on that months ago that midazolam can be used lawfully for an execution here in the U.S. So we were hoping to ask the director of the Department of Corrections to clarify a bit about this latest stay of execution. But as you saw right here live on News Channel 4, he didn't answer any questions. It was a very brief statement from the Department of Corrections.
New at 5, more on the chemical used in the execution that is now under scrutiny. Allie Meyer, along with Abby Broyles, are standing by outside the McAllister State Prison with details. And Allie, we're not talking about the controversial drug midazolam right now, rather something entirely different here.
Kevin, that is quite right. We're not talking about midazolam here, that suspect drug that has gone all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. We're talking about an entirely different drug, and we are just now learning within the past few minutes that this may be a case of a completely absent-minded mix-up. I'm joined now by Sister Helen Prejean. She is learning a little bit more. Sister Helen, you were inside with Richard Glossip. And
no, I wasn't with Richard. We were the witnesses for Richard were all being held in a room waiting. And so we were waiting on word when we would be brought into the execution chamber, which was supposed to happen at 3. And so then at 2:45 it wasn't happening, and I knew they had to allow time to get us in a van, so I knew things were delayed, but I didn't know why. And now I find out it wasn't the U.S. Supreme Court. It was Oklahoma, and because they had the wrong drugs. But what this brings out is Supreme Court has allowed states to administer the death penalty. As they said, the states should be in charge of punishing criminals the way they choose, and so Oklahoma has the death penalty, and they've let them in charge of choosing the drugs they can experiment to kill people.
We are learning from Governor Mary Fallin that the problem in this execution was a drug called potassium acetate. So that was confusing to us in the media because we don't see potassium acetate listed at all as one of the execution drugs. What do you know about the involvement of potassium acetate in the execution of Richard Glossip?
It's a food preservative. It also happens to be a Richard Glossip preservative because he's not dead, because they messed it up. They got the wrong drugs. And one of the real bad problems is the Supreme Court has been allowing states to experiment. They're not monitoring this at all. They're leaving it up to the states, and Oklahoma messed it up.
So what you're telling me is you believe the state mixed up potassium acetate and potassium chloride, the drug that stops the heart.
Potassium chloride is the real killer. It's the real killer. And that's when Charles Warner was executed, and he said, I have acid in my veins because it's just like fire going through your veins and it stops your heart. So you're supposed to have an anesthetic, which midazolam has not proved to be very effective. And they didn't get potassium chloride. They got potassium acetate.
You've spoken with Richard on the phone just a few minutes ago. You and his best friend from New Jersey who traveled here to witness the execution were just speaking with him. We heard a little snippet of that from on speakerphone. How would you describe his state of mind today? He was supposed to be dead almost exactly 2 hours ago.
Yeah, he's alive. This thing is so absolute. If they'd carried out the execution, he would be absolutely dead. He's absolutely alive. And who can get their mind around this? Who can get their mind around this? I can't get my mind around it, neither can he. He's been losing weight, and it's wearing on him because he's had these 3 close calls with death waiting to die, and he's still alive.
For more on exactly what went on here today, we want to switch gears and talk with Abby Broyles, who's been speaking with his attorney and part of your team, Don Knight. Abby, go ahead.
Allie, thank you. And Don Knight has been Glossip's attorney since earlier this year. You just got off the phone with Richard. Tell me a little bit about that conversation.
Well, obviously he's happy. He's thrilled that he's still alive. He is as confused as the rest of us as to where in the process this happened. He was in his cell. He said he had been pacing for 2.5 hours in his boxer shorts, waiting for something to happen, not knowing what's going to happen. You know, he talked about how difficult the process is. It's like torture is what it is, you know. I mean, he was thinking that they were going to come. He was waiting for the stay. He thought when he heard about the stay it was the Supreme Court. He had no idea. So this process is just really wearing him down. It's truly a difficult thing for him to take, just like it is for all of us to take.
Do you know anything about the drug, what appears to be a mix-up at this point?
I don't know anything other than what I've seen on the governor's stay order. That's all I've seen, and you know, it looks like a mix-up. I mean, I don't know how these things happen. I don't know how people can mix this up, but you know, we're going to find out and take it from there.
Okay, Don Knight, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.
We'll have more information coming up a little bit later on News Channel 4. For Allie Meyer, I'm Abby Broyles reporting live in McAlester. Marianne, back to you.